This is a very exciting time of the year for us. We harvest more crops in August, September, and early October than at any other time of the year. Today I'd like to invite you to join me as I pick today's harvest. Let's start here in the hoop house where I'm growing Triunfo Violetto and Kentucky pole beans up the hoops. I especially like the Triunfo Violetto beans because they're the first to ripen and they produce well until the first frost. We're growing both of these bean varieties in a variety of locations all over the garden. This is part of our strategy of growing in polycultures instead of monocultures, because polycultures reduce pest and disease pressures. The purple Triunfo Violetto pole beans are purple on the outside, but green on the inside, and they turn green when they're cooked. There's our first Kentucky pole bean. We've been getting absolutely massive harvests out of these every single day lately. Okay, I've skipped ahead a bit and I'm now harvesting the last of the pole beans from the hoop house area. And here's our harvest. Now to give you some perspective on this harvest, I harvested beans here not only yesterday, but also the last 3 days in a row. Now let's go harvest some carrots. We plant mostly small carrot varieties because they do well in partial shade. And we succession plant carrots from February through September for a continuous harvest of carrots through the year. As with the beans, we have carrots planted in a wide variety of locations all over the garden. And I'll be harvesting both beans and carrots in a number of locations today. If I recall correctly, most of these carrots are Danvers half-longs and short and sweets. Again, the small carrots do better in our shady garden. Okay, and wrapping up today's harvest, for at least this area, there it is. Now let's go harvest some tomatoes, my favorite summer crop. We have about 40 plants and they're planted all over the garden in a variety of locations. Here we have single-stemmed, indeterminate sweet million tomatoes growing up the same stakes as Triunfo Violetto pole beans. There's 3 pole beans on each stake. This is an experiment I started last year and I'm continuing this year, and it's going very well. My goal is to grow more food in this limited space. Next year I may go with 2 pole beans per tomato, just to give the tomatoes a little bit more sun. As far as this experiment goes, the advantage that the Triunfo Violetto pole beans have over the Kentucky pole beans is they don't have as many leaves, which gives the tomatoes more sun when growing them all up the same stake. Now, almost all of these are ripe, just those last 2. And while I'm here, let's harvest some of the pole beans that are growing up the same stake. Another advantage of the purple beans is that they stand out against the green canopy, and I don't miss too many of them when I harvest. As I said before, we have tomatoes growing all over the garden. Now let's harvest some tomatoes from one of the more sunny locations. These tomatoes are part of an experiment that I'm doing where I'm comparing the results of starting a tomato indoors in mid-March versus outdoors under cover in mid-March. They're both the same variety. The one started indoors has more fruit and is a little bit taller, but both tomatoes are doing well. And at this point I do anticipate starting more tomatoes outside under cover next spring. Let's harvest. Okay, I've got a lot more tomatoes to harvest back in this area. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be back with you in a moment. Okay, this harvest is starting to get a little heavy, but I'm just getting started. Next I'll harvest from this canopy you see in front of you, which is pole beans and tomatoes. These beans are growing up conduit stakes, and then I have twine connecting the stakes together so they can branch across. I'll go ahead and finish up this harvest here. Then I'll meet you out front to pick peppers and eggplants. The front yard garden gets much more sun than the backyard garden, and we're growing over 50 pepper plants in 7-gallon grow bags there, 2 plants per bag in most cases. The peppers are on our concrete front steps, which retain heat and help keep the peppers warm. We planted the peppers in our grow room in March, started harvesting them in July, and we'll continue to harvest them until our first frost in mid-October. We're definitely growing a surplus of peppers this year, and have already started dehydrating and freezing them. Jimmy Nardello peppers are our favorite variety, and we're growing more of them than any other variety. We're also growing a number of eggplants in the front yard. And we're having the best basil harvest ever. It's definitely time to start making more pesto. Well, I'm back in the backyard garden. Before continuing with my harvest, I wanted to mention our summer squash. Our zucchini and patty pan squash are doing very well and producing like crazy, but unfortunately we don't have any to harvest today. I'll show pictures of fruit from both plants at the end of the video. Now let's go harvest some more tomatoes and beans. Okay, here's one more area where I've created a canopy of tomatoes and pole beans, growing up conduit stakes and connected on top with twine. I'm going to go ahead and do the harvest here, and then I'll be back to finish today's harvest by harvesting berries. Okay, I'm done harvesting tomatoes and beans. Now I'll harvest berries, starting with blackberries. We've had our best blackberry season ever, and the season's coming to an end, but there's still plenty to harvest. We've been harvesting blackberries at least every other day for a number of weeks now. And we have so many of them that I've been making cobbler after cobbler and freezing the surplus. This harvest is going to take quite a while, so I'm going to get to work on it, and I'll be back with you when I'm finished. Wow, I really wasn't joking when I said this would take a while. Fortunately, I think I've found all the blackberries I can find. Ouch. And I have to say, they're well worth the effort. So I've picked the blackberries. Now let's pick blueberries and strawberries. I'm getting close to the end of the blueberry season, and they're pretty well picked over, so I don't expect to find too many today. But we'll find some, and I don't want to let any go to waste. As I expected, there aren't too many ripe blueberries left. We've been harvesting these every other day for weeks, so they're getting pretty thin at this point. I think these plants are 3 years old now, and this is the first year they've really produced well. Okay, I think that's it. Now let's top off our berry harvest with some strawberries. We've been harvesting strawberries every other day too, but I know I can always count on finding at least some ripe, ever-bearing tri-star strawberries. Okay, today's harvest is now complete. And to give you a better idea of exactly what I ended up harvesting, let's separate out all the individual crops into separate bowls and take a look. I harvested a big colander full of tomatoes, enough peppers to last more than a few days, eggplant and Triunfo Violetto and Kentucky pole beans, an assortment of carrots, a heap of basil, and enough berries to make another cobbler. Hey Oscar, what's up? I hope you enjoyed joining me for today's harvest. As we close, I'll share more pictures of recent harvests. And if you'd like to see even more, join me on my 1 Yard Revolution Facebook page, where I regularly share harvest pictures as well as pictures of recipes I make with those harvests. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more videos on how to grow a lot of food on a little land without spending much or working harder than you have to.